Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Am I the Buttface, and it's by user Throwaway and a bunch of numbers. Am I the buttface for refusing to divorce my husband? I, 30 female, met my husband Dave, 32 male, when we were little. He's been my best friend since we were 10. We were raised in very conservative Christian families in the Bible Belt. We followed the script expected of us, dated in high school, engaged in college, married after his graduation, and kids after I established a career. Kids are 5 and 3. We've been married 10 years. We separated but stayed legally married 3.5 years ago because I finally admitted to him and myself that I'm a lesbian. I thought that I could fake it till I make it, but I just couldn't do it anymore. It was strained for a while and we continued couples therapy. Ultimately, we both wanted to do the best for our kids. For us, that meant continuing to live together. He lives in the apartment above our detached garage because neither of us wanted to be single parents. Eventually, we both started dating other people and I met my girlfriend Krista 1.5 years ago. She knew I had kids and an unconventional co-parenting arrangement up front. I told her I was still legally married after 6 months of dating. She had been fine with our living in co-parenting style prior to this, but was less than thrilled by my lack of official divorce. She asked if divorce was eventual, and I told her yes. Dave and I agreed with divorce when it no longer was mutually beneficial to remain married. He'd asked a new potential spouse. The longer Krista and I were together, the more my being married bothered her. She feels remaining married symbolizes I'm subconsciously clinging to my straight identity and is a barrier to moving on with my life, which I mildly disagree with but understand. She does not want to get married and had voiced the opinion that it was just a piece of paper, so I'm surprised it's become such a big deal. I agreed 4 months ago that I would bring it up with Dave and set a time frame for divorce by the end of this year to make her happy. 2 months ago, Dave's company downsized his job, and a week later, he found out his increasing fatigue and illness was aggressive leukemia. He's undergoing treatment that is estimated to be 10% effective in cases like this, and they told him to consider that this might be terminal. If the treatment fails, they've given him 6 months to 1 year. For Krista, this changes nothing. For me, divorcing Dave now would be unconscionable. I would make what is potentially his final months even harder than they have to be. Whether she likes it or not, he's the father of my children and my oldest friend. To force the issue while he's fighting for his life would be incredibly selfish and damaging to both him and our kids. She's telling me that not only am I regressing into denial about my sexuality by refusing to bring it up again, but also that I'm already a selfish a-hole by leading her on. And that I want the best of both worlds by remaining married to a man while continuing to date a woman. Well, OP, in my opinion, no, you are not the butt face or the a-hole or anything of the sort. And personally, I think Krista sucks. I think her arguments are absolutely unfounded and she's the one that's being selfish. Let's start with her telling you that you're regressing into denial about your sexuality. What the F is she talking about? None of that makes any sense. You know who you are, you know what you like, and that's it. You're gay, and that's it. And how's not wanting to bring up divorce with your potentially dying ex-spouse a regression of some sort? I just don't see it. Maybe that's because I'm ignorant, but I don't see it. But anyways, the biggest point of BS here is that you are an a-hole for leading her on, considering she's the one that never wants to get married, so what are you leading her on to? You do have a relationship with her, an exclusive one apparently, and that's it. She doesn't want more than that, so what are you leading her on to again, I ask? I don't like Krista because she's pushing you to be selfish to your ex-husband, who, by the way, is your best friend in the world, and to your kids. That's not nice. If this is a deal breaker for Krista, then let it be a deal breaker and let her go. And what do you guys think about all this? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Sicken343 says, not the butt face. I am sorry you're going through that. I understand what you wanted in the beginning, but now you are just looking after Dave. I understand where Krista is coming from. You haven't given up your straight relationship yet, and that is frustrating for her. But now I don't think it's about the relationship. It's about your friendship. I'm sure others will disagree, but you are likely making Dave's life better at the probable end. I would hope that Krista would be able to understand what you are hoping to do in this scenario. Have you explained that to her? I mean, in reality, can you really argue that you have remained married at this point? You guys lead separate lives and are actively dating. At this point, to me, it really is just a piece of paper. I suppose if you still live with him, it's easier to argue, but either way, I don't see the problem, but that's me. Anyways, I hope you figured something out. Best of luck to Dave. And Opie responds, I've tried explaining and she's insisting that the agreement I made with her is more important. She said that if Dave is really okay with my lifestyle like he says, it won't matter to him that we get divorced, and it definitely shouldn't matter to me. Xwolves says, not the butt face. It doesn't make sense at this point to get divorced. With all due respect, if he's coming to the end of the road, why not just wait? I'm sorry if this sounds insensitive, don't mean it to be. If he makes the recovery, then I'd bring it up with him until it's just a matter of time. He doesn't deserve the added stress from his best friend during these more trial last months and year. Your girlfriend needs to respect your family. And Opie responds, thank you. That's how I felt about it, and you're not insensitive. It's pragmatic. But she's worked it all up to be this big psychological thing. Like, if I don't get the divorce before he passes away, I'll always have some lingering doubt that I really meant our separation. I forget exactly how she phrased it, but I took her words to mean that insisting on a divorce is confirming my new sexuality. Not insisting signifies I'm not really serious or committed to being a lesbian for life. Deleted says, not the butt face. Krista is using a lot of bad faith arguments and manipulation to paint you as the bad guy, which is really unfair and crappy. Frankly, she's showing you who she really is when she ignores reality and tries to guilt you into going against your conscience. She doesn't sound like a good person or a kind person, and I'm kind of mystified what her good qualities are and where they've gone to. Does she even care about your kids? Her actions certainly don't reflect that if she'd risk damaging them by insisting you divorce their father in his hours of need. Especially when she doesn't even want to get married. She's basically trying to turn this into a pick him or me situation, and it's really ugly how she's doing it. Is this who you really want to be with for the rest of your and your kids' lives? And Opie responds, I'm really starting to think not. She's been mildly immature about our situation before. The biggest one was trying to insist that I leave the kids with Dave whenever she comes up with something she wants us to go do that isn't kid-friendly, regardless of how short the notice. Like, no, he's their dad, but he's not my free babysitter to just dump the kids on whenever we want to go party. But she does have a lot of good qualities. She's great with our kids, and she's normally very loving and affectionate. She's the type who volunteers at the animal shelters and takes people meals when they're sick and buys Boy Scout popcorn just to help the little guys out, even though she can't stand microwave popcorn. This is the first time she's been like this, and it completely blindsided me. I can't believe how she doesn't see the cruelty of what she wants me to do or the effect it'll have on us. Additional information from Opie's comments. Krista doesn't want to get married, and while I'm open to the idea of marriage eventually, not anytime soon. And the reasons for staying married prior to this were completely logistical, finances and insurance mainly. Even prior to his job loss, I carried his health insurance through my employer. Mine offered better coverage. We've just maintained it for the last 7 years. I had told him we needed to sit down and have a serious talk about the divorce just before he was downsized, and I was thinking that doing it by year's end would enable him to sign up for health insurance through his employer. I suspect that she's jealous or insecure that he's still in my life and I still care about him. I can't seem to get her to understand that he's not going anywhere. Kids, hello, and he's always going to be family to me. I understand that's not easy when it's an ex, but he's given her no reason to not like him aside from existing. I've lost a lot of my friends and family over my coming out. Of all the people who deserve to cut me loose, it's him. But through all of this, he's supported me even when it hurt him. My parents don't speak to me anymore. If they want to see my kids, they call him. He's welcome at my parents for holidays. I am not. It infuriates him and he's tried talking to them, but they just are that way. He almost cut ties with them over their refusal to acknowledge my existence, but he didn't because I asked him not to. I want my kids to have grandparents. He's taken on that burden as well, defending me even though I betrayed him and our vows, as they say, and making it clear that if he hears them bashing me to my kids, they'll never see the kids again. I don't understand why she can't accept him in my life when he's done nothing but accept her. His parents are slightly more tolerant of my life choices than mine. They acknowledge me, but I know they were very upset when they found out why we separated. We've done our best to separate all our finances and split all expenses 50-50. If we were to divorce and this treatment doesn't work, I wouldn't put it past them to fight whatever might originally would have come to me. It's something he has taken into consideration and told me he's working with a lawyer to make sure he gets a will clearly drafted. If the worst does happen, he wants to make sure we don't lose the house. I get that she probably feels threatened by him. She's never said that, but she's always acknowledged her own sexuality and admitted that she doesn't understand how other people switch teams. Dave and I spoke with our families together once we had our basic arrangement sorted out. He knew that with the way our community is, we would need a united, transparent front to protect our kids. That's another story entirely, but we spent our entire second pregnancy fielding angry calls and texts and emails. But Dave still lived in the house until the baby was a couple of months old, so I didn't have to deal with a newborn and losing the majority of my previous support system at the same time. I had crappy timing. I've been open and honest about my relationships. I've never tried to hide the women I've dated. Krista does not live with me at her own choice. She says she values her independence and doesn't think she'll ever give up a space of her own. Dave living in the garage was never a permanent concept. He talked about moving out next year when our younger child goes into preschool. I told Krista that when that happened, she was more than welcome to have it as her personal space. Now, I waited 6 months of dating before I told her I was married because I was trying to take it slow and we weren't originally planning on us being serious, but then we just kinda slowly drifted that way. I told her about my kids and that my ex lived on the same property as I did, but didn't introduce her to them until 3 months in. She was always extremely dismissive of marriage, so I didn't think it was a big deal. But I can't see how waiting that long was an unintentional douche move on my part. However, I must add that she spent the first 4 months seeing other people, being extremely vocal about not wanting a relationship and calling us an extended booty call. I don't think someone who's expressed interests lie solely in getting in my pants and not a damn thing else counts as a relationship. The moment she expressed a desire for something more, we had a conversation where I explained everything and gave her every opportunity to tell me to F off. Alright, well the community agrees that OP is not the butt face or the a-hole or anything of the sort, and OP gave us a lot more context, which just solidifies to me that she's not being an a-hole and that Krista is kinda being a big a-hole here. Now, before we move on with the update, just remember that up here is a playlist full of other stories that you might want to check out after this video ends. Now let's continue with the update. First off, I know this isn't a support sub and I didn't expect it to be, but it kinda turned out that way. And I appreciate you all so much. Thank you. I received the most helpful, constructive feedback I've ever gotten in my entire life from this sub. As far as the issue at hand in my last post, I feel confident that I'm doing the right thing but not asking Dave for a divorce. Krista still disagrees, damn near violently. As such, she is no longer my girlfriend. I tried to have a calm, adult conversation with her about it the night after my original post. Emphasis on tried. She was immediately aggravated and defensive, told me that unless the next words out of my mouth involved signing divorce papers, we had nothing to talk about. I asked her why it bothered her so much and it turned into an argument no matter how calmly I tried to remain. Ultimately, she admitted, in a fit of rage, that she felt that people who stayed friends with their exes are psychologically damaged and guaranteed to cheat. When I asked if she knew my situation and felt that way, why did she press me for a relationship that she originally said she never wanted? She said that she assumed Dave would snap and do something that either was awful or that she could convince me was awful at some point. It then came out in our argument that she was pushing so hard on the divorce issue now to intentionally create tension and shatter Dave and I's care for each other because, again, in her opinion, it's completely unnatural. That was it. I told her I was done and I didn't need a heartless, selfish, insecure, jealousy-riddled piece of crap like her in my life or around my kids. The rest of it after that was just immature on both our parts, with us both yelling insults at each other while she threw stuff everywhere. Clothes, blankets, couch cushions, looking for things she'd brought to the house and left over the last year. The kids weren't there, thank God. I had the foresight to see if Dave would have them for a sleepover in his apartment. I'm okay, I think. Grieving a bit, which feels stupid considering everything, but I feel like I had a rotten tooth for so long, I didn't realize how much pain and pressure it was causing me until I yanked it out. Well, OP, good for you. I'm gonna count this as a happy update, because Krista, yeah, good riddance to her. And as for you and Dave, I am sorry that he's going through this health issue. Hopefully he is within that 10% that makes it, and then after that you guys can sort your divorce out when it's happening and all that. All the best in the future to the both of you and your kids, OP. Take care. Now, let's move on to a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Department Killer. If you find that job, take it. Goodbye. Okay, I will, and take the department with me. To keep it vague, my old company was a fairly large REIT, real estate investment trusts, roughly $10 billion. I was a part of a very niche mergers and acquisitions shop that was typically the black sheep of the company. It felt like anything we did was just a hassle overall, and it wasn't really worth the company's time to entertain these acquisitions anymore. I was a part of the minuscule-sized deal team, 3 of us including myself, that closed over 60 deals per year, with 45 to 50 active deals at one time. Typically, each deal took about 4 to 9 months from start to finish, depending on the seller's competence level and organization. This was my first job out of college. I knew the career path I wanted to take was going to require long hours and no vacations, but typically in finance, the salary will reflect that commitment. Well, for this job, I was making $52,000 a year, working 80 hours a week, $12.50 an hour gross pay. After my first full year, I went to the VP of the department and requested a 20% raise. I was told the basic inflation spiel and got a 2% cost of living adjustment. I think it's important to note here that after I left this company, I found out that same VP received a $2 million bonus. Fast forward a couple of months. Every year, the company has a meeting where the entire company, 300-ish people, meets at a hotel. They do this to give updates as to what the company has done so far, where they are going, and for team building, of course. In reality, this was a multi-million-dollar event to pat the backs of the executives that don't really do much in reality. As a part of this event, anyone in the company is allowed to send in anonymized questions to the CEO, and he will read and respond to them if he thinks it's something worth talking about. Just before this company event, 5 people had resigned from other departments in the company. Every one of them almost doubled their salaries at their new jobs. So I decided to ask the question, how do you plan to retain talent when there are other companies offering 2 times the money with half of the workload? The CEO decided this question was hilarious and read it out loud laughing and responded, "If you find that job," with finger quotes as if it was real, "you better take it. Goodbye." After being treated pretty terribly the last 1.5 years, including missing my grandfather's 88th birthday party due to a last-second PowerPoint that ended up not even being used, I decided that was the final nail in the coffin. I spoke with one of the recently resigned co-workers about his new company, and soon after, a recruiter from his company reached out to me. I go through the interview process and get the job. I more than doubled my pay when taking the 20% end-of-year bonus into account. And I even got a $10,000 signing bonus. The story doesn't end there. As I gave notice to my wonderful manager who taught me everything I know, she first told me she hates me because she is going to have to take over my 19 current deals. But then, shockingly, she confides that after 7 years of working at the company, she is ready to move to greener pastures as well. I decided to call the recruiter that reached out to me originally and ask if there are any other positions open at my new company. She says yes. They interview her and she gets the job as well a month later. 2 down, 1 to go. The final co-worker standing was not hard to convince, as he saw 52 deals suddenly pile onto his desk while he was already underwater doing the same 80 hours a week as I did. I worked with him to spruce up his resume and get the wheels turning. After 2 interviews, he was given a verbal job offer with an in-writing letter expected the next week. All said and done, all 3 of us ended up doubling our old salaries. The old company is now scrambling to replace us with over 100 million worth of deals that will grind to a halt when my last coworker makes his departure. My new gig does not feel like real life. I have a fantastic boss that respects my time outside of the office to the point that he gave me 2 weeks in between jobs to unwind after my previous role. My workload is 30% of what I used to do as well. My old manager got the same 2-week treatment and is currently enjoying her time off and will start in the middle of October. If I was only given that 20% raise. Oh, OP, this is beautiful. When will the fat cats learn, huh? Thank you for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.